This conference will now be recorded.
Hello and welcome to the April 5th Park Board meeting on April 5th, 2021. I would like to call to order this Park Board. Welcoming Troy to this section. Our guest Brad, good to have you here. And am I doing this right?
Yep, you go for it. You're doing great.
Informal or formal?
However you feel.
Right?
As long as you cover the bases, we're good.
Awesome. Okay, and then we approve the agenda, right?
Yeah, and I want to add item G, that'd be for the Field of Honor approval for the BFW. So we'll add item G and approve the agenda with that.
Okay, we're gonna add item letter G on our agenda and add field of honor approval and then approve the agenda of this meeting. Any objections? Do I need a motion for that?
Yep, you need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda with the added item of G, Field of Honor. Mary Goplin.
I second that.
All right, motion carried. Agenda approved. Next time I'll ask for nays. All right, then we have the minutes next on our agenda, minutes from March 1st, 2021. Are there any objections to the approval of the minutes from last month? If not, I will take a motion to approve the minutes, March 1st, 2021.
That would be between Mary and you, Mike, and he would add those things.
Oh, then we'll have to,
And that's fine.
yep, we'll have to wait until next meeting then.
All right, we're going to table this approval of the minutes till next month, May 2021, when they are a higher quantity of members of the park board present. Moving forward, approving the accounts payable, is that okay?
Yep.
Good. Awesome. Did you see this, Troy?
I have not. I didn't get that last email.
Got it in front of you. You want to take a look?
I do see this here. Okay. So do you need a motion from me to approve these?
Yep,
Yep.
anybody.
I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and approve the accounts payable.
Goplin seconds.
Okay, motion carried to approve the minutes for accounts payable April 5th, 2021. Next on our agenda is unfinished business. Last month, we moved Brad in front for discussion. Is that more comfortable for you, Brad?
That's fine.
That's okay for everybody? Brad, are you here to discuss the field of honor and then finish plans with that?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Wonderful.
Start off with that. We decided to do the Field of Honor like we used to do it before last year because of COVID last year. We did not. We did a short, kind of a smaller version, I think. So we decided to go back to the regular, normal Field of Honor this year. If you guys approve it, same place, just like it used to be 2 years ago and before. Basically the same thing going on, probably a tent down there, overnight, people watching the flags, lights on the flags. That's kind of what that's.
You guys, we always open up the bathrooms, but is there anything that would say you want a porta pot down there for that? Would that be easier than going all the way across, Brad? Or?
It'd be easier. I don't think we'd have to have it.
Okay, it's just something for you guys to consider if you I don't think that would be a bad thing for those guys that they put all that time
Yep.
into it.
It'd be a positive.
Financially, it looks like a porta potty is about 120 or so.
For the whole month.
Right,
The whole month of porta
right. That was for the entire month.
That goes from a Friday night, Brad, till.
Probably Friday through Monday, late Monday afternoon.
Okay.
It's a long weekend, but we can contact me. He's been given deals because he comes for the DFA project, so yeah, I'm sure that'll be going on.
Well, do we need a motion to approve the field of honor this year, including the porta potty available?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the additional porta potty for the Field of Flags and have that added and approved.
Goplin will second.
All right, should I do any, should I do the ayes and the nays? How do I do that? Any ayes?
Was Fred usually doing that?
All in favor? Should I do? All right. Opposed? Okay, motion carried. That's the correct process. Okay. I can do this. Great. All right, Field of Honor, the agenda has been completed there. And Brad, more information on their Veterans Memorial?
Yeah, we're kind of getting geared up, you know, kind of talking about it for two or 3 years now. And the COVID kind of threw a iron in the fire there, so we're getting back on track here again, finally. We got a board together, 2 American Legion members and 3 VFW members. VFW from Zumbrota and the American Legion from Zumbrota here. We got together, we got a committee, we got this 100% support from the American Legion and Zumbrota VFW. They're totally behind us and a lot of good ideas we can come from that. I had an article in the paper, or Mr. Grimsrud had an article in his editorial a 3 weeks ago asking for drawings for a site, what it would look like, because, you know, there's all kinds of sites. We got all kinds of drawings. I brought some here before in the past. And there's just, you know, tons of different ideas. We're just asking for drawings from anybody and actually offered $100 out there for picking the winning drawing. I haven't received any. We had a April 15th cutoff date. So I haven't had any yet, but that doesn't mean I won't get any. But that's kind of, we put that out there just to see what would come, you know, what people would come up with and just get ideas. So that's out there. I know Mike and I and Fred and Frank Goplin and Howard A. and we have all been out there together. Looked at the site. It's the site that we kind of, the size of it is approximately 75 feet by 100 feet. 100 feet long, north-south, 75 feet wide. I talked to Fred out there about moving some trees, just 2 of them, smaller, probably 7-8 foot pine trees. I'd like to have them moved. There's a parking area right behind Jeff Barner's house. There's a drive goes back in there, and there's kind of a brushy type tree sitting there. I know Fred said he could move that out of there and maybe expand the parking area some, which would be really nice. Let's see, maybe some of them trees, so there's some bigger ones along the boulevard there that maybe 1 or 2 would have to be, we'd like trimmed up, and Fred said that would be fine, or even maybe take one of them down. We talked about electrical to the site. They said that wouldn't be an issue. There will be flags at that, probably will be. We haven't got to that point yet where we're gonna, like, you know, this is exactly what it's gonna look like, because we're waiting for ideas. But there probably will be flags there. Not sure how many. I know I talked to the city of Mazeppa this morning. In Mazeppa, the city owns the site, and the city has insurance on the site. That's what the city of Mazeppa does. So that's kind of what, in a nutshell, that's kind of what it is. We're looking for ideas. We want to get moving in the next couple of months, hopefully do something, get some, I'm in the process of getting some, or sending out applications for some funding. I talked to Paul Rockney this morning about the Zumbrota Community Fund or the Community Trust. He's going to bring it to their board. He didn't think it would be an issue. What we would do is I've asked them, or I asked Paul, I wrote a request for, what do they call it? Request for sponsorship of the Zumbrota Community Trust. So the money would go to them and then they would pay the funds or the, whatever the invoices or the pavers or the flags or the benches or whatever would come out of there. We wouldn't have, our committee wouldn't have to touch the money. We just give it to them. That way it's kind of a pass-through thing. We thought that would be the simplest, and that way there'd be no bickering about where the money went or where it's coming from or anything like that. So we figured that'd be the best way to do it. So Paul's in the process now going to their board and to see if that'll be okay with them. It's the Zumbrota Community Trust. He thought it would work, and so we'll see what comes back from that. I also am looking at different ways to raise funds, and I've got some applications for some different places that both Wanamingo and Mazeppa have used in the past, and they're not even really, well, they're that co-op down by Orinoco. It's kind of back of them campground or them camper sales places. There's a kind of a co-op there. I think it's electrical co-op. Both them sites receive money from them. So that's, I got an application going into them. And then just other ideas I'm looking at to raise some funds to get started. So that's kind of what we're doing right now.
I know in the past, Brad, we've discussed a little bit about renaming that whole kind of field out there with some kind of, maybe that's something you could throw out there too for ideas from the community or,
Yeah.
I still think that would be kind of a neat idea to have that ball field area with a name.
Good. Yeah, I can bring up the committee. I can talk about it there. I know Dave Grimsby's got some ideas about some different things he's talked to me about. Yeah, this is all new to us here in town, so it's kind of, I know Wes Volz, who's one of our committee members, he's been involved in Mazeppa on that site. He was from start to finish. My brother Mike Nord, who was on our committee, was involved with Mazeppa. I've been talking to Larry Vanderwalker from Wanamingo. He's been involved in both sites. So a lot of good ideas from them people. They've been there from the start of each site to the end. So, just a lot of good ideas. I'm not starting from scratch without not knowing anything. So them guys have really been helpful. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
Information collection, that's very helpful. That's wonderful information collection.
Yeah.
For us, yeah.
But we're very grateful for the city. I know Mike's really helped or talked about this and behind it, and Fred. And, so far, I think most of the park board is pretty much behind what we're doing. And yeah, so I did ask Fred a week or two ago if the park board had the authority to give us the approval to go ahead with that site. And he didn't get back to me yet, but does anybody know for sure?
That would come strictly from the park board. That's correct.
Okay. So I guess, do we have the approval to start doing anything there yet, or do we want to wait a little while, another month, or what do you think?
We probably should put it on a formal,
Okay.
as long as you guys have time for that. I
Yep.
mean,
Yep, we got time.
I think we'd be better off putting it on a formal agenda item, Brad, and running it through the process that way.
Okay, that sounds good. Does anybody have any questions?
Describe the location just to make sure that everybody knows where we're talking about.
So, yeah, I think Kayla is here. This is for the Veterans Memorial. They're going to put it just on the west side of the softball fields out there north of town. We've been planning that, or they've been planning that for a while, but to pick the site got to be a little tricky because the city doesn't have just a lot of land available to them. So I think everybody agreed that that was the best spot to go with it. And I think it'll fit in really nice out there too. It'll look nice out there. It's visible from the highway and there will be some parking and actual parking from the softball side too, if there gets to be more people there that they can walk over from on that trail. So that should work out really nice.
VFW and American Legion could use the site for events, or does that not happen?
What did you say?
Can the VFW have an event or like a barbecue there at some time, or yeah, for future ideas? Or is that not
I guess we never talked about that or thought about that at all. I mean, it's possible.
okay? It's something the park board would just be like, okay, we're fine with that. Just use it as you need to.
Yeah, I think even just the memorial itself, as Mike pointed out, it's a great visibility area. And as it sits right now between the last remaining the house that's there and the basketball court, that is kind of an unused space with some trees that are getting older and some brush, like you say, some weeds or thicket that's kind of growing up there. I think that'd be a great use of that space. And there is already access to Main Street or Highway 58 right there where you can drive in out of there. So if that parking lot does get expanded and move closer towards the parking lot or the softball field, I think you could have a good turnaround and thing in there. That'd be a good use of space.
Discussed that a lot, especially with some of the elderly veterans to be able to make sure that they're able to get from a parking spot to the memorial itself. You know,
That's-
if not even being able to drive them right to it. You know.
Yeah. I mean, with the right design, you might even be able to put in a drive around thing. But yeah, that's a great use of space there.
That seems important to a lot of people to be able to have access to it.
Yeah, and with things with the softball, it was talked, naming the fields out there, eventually maybe if the baseball team had to have a new stadium, that might be something to
Yep.
just kind of mix in there. So it could be, a pretty good walk through, go through the stadium and put an honor in the stadium as well. And
Correct.
tie it all in eventually. It could be a very, very nice thing.
Yeah, they got a nice trail that leads up between the two fields. You could easily tie in right there, right behind the outfield fence where you could walk and do the whole thing because they got bathrooms and everything used there. So great use of space.
Yeah, I think it's a great site. We looked at a lot of sites over the years. I think this is probably the best site we actually found.
Okay, so we're looking for a letter for our agenda to make an approval for your site, and that's what we're planning.
So, yeah, that's agenda. I'll just come and just
Yeah, we'll make sure we add it to the agenda right away, Brad.
nothing I need to do. What date is the next meeting?
Is I think it's the 3rd. Yep, May 3rd.
Okay, could you put me on there?
Yep. I pretty much have you as a standing agenda item.
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I would like to take this moment for a delayed welcome to Kayla to the park board. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hello, everybody.
Maybe we need some introductions. Does that help? Probably. I've never met you before, so.
Well, I'm pretty new to the area, so
So I'm Mike. I'm the Public Works Director for the city. I don't know if you just want to go around.
Come over, Chris, more to the microphone.
You can sit.
I'm Chris Horvath. I'm the liaison for the city council.
Troy Ness, the other new member. And Michael Schulte.
And I'm Miranda. I'm the one you've been talking to.
Okay.
And then
Yeah, I had to switch. I was trying to download it on my computer and it wasn't working, so I had to switch and download it on my phone quick. But now we got it working.
I'm glad you got in. I saw your email right as I quit sharing my screen. I'm like, oops.
Mary Goplin's on there too. She can introduce herself.
Hi, Kayla. I'm Mary Goplin.
And then Ann, you might as well introduce yourself now too.
Jump on in.
All right, I'm Ann Eidler, and I am not actually on the park board, but attending the meeting because I will hopefully, as approved at this meeting, be managing the pool this summer. So nice to meet everybody.
I hope so too, because otherwise we're in trouble.
You can see the spread of papers I have in front of me right now and all the phone calls I've made today. I think we're good.
She's been putting in a lot of good work.
Well, let's carry forward at this time. We will go to our priority list and we'll talk about the pool. How about that? And we're talking about the pool construction or the pool opening plans, right? After we look at some refurbishments.
List for me on, so the pool update is that obviously we want to run the pool for the 2024 season through the 2024 season and then do a larger refurbishment or construct a new pool. New refurbishment will depend on the amount of money raised by capital campaign. So they had already had a pool committee and they came to a decision on a pool that was $5.4 million from Burbach Aquatics or a $2.5 million for a full refurbishment. We've solicited some quotes from Thatcher Pools out of Rochester, and his opinion was that we could build a new zero depth entry pool with some amenities for around $2.5 million. We'd have to hire local contractors for the bathhouse and the pump room. The capital committee should plan on raising about $1 million of the needed funds. Should plan on raising all but $1 million of the funds. They are willing to run a referendum for the final $1 million. Burbach would help with a capital campaign, but that is phase 1, step 5, and that's an extra $5,800. Or we can move on with a different direction with the help of for help on a capital campaign. So this year, the plan is to open the pool. We need about $66,200 for needed equipment and repair and replacements. We could get into another $30,000 if we need to replaster and do some deck repair. If this is reasonable to keep the pool operating for the next 4 season, we'd like, and the money's available to state, we'd like to stay under that $100,000 to do this. Right now, after going through it with Thatcher, both diving boards have to come out. They just won't make it. We talked about adding a rock climbing wall to that area, which could then be taken from the our pool now and added to a new pool or on a refurbished pool. That comes at a cost of $27,000. But if we don't replace them diving boards with something, I think we're really going to be struggling out there.
Nothing.
But we really wouldn't be usable for much.
But it'll be nice, we can rotate it in, no matter what we choose to do, it can come along with us. So it's not a lost investment by any means.
Were there other options that he gave for the 12? Because I know, yeah, with 12 feet, you can't do everything that you might think you could.
So Brad, even on a new pool, which he thought somewhere between that 2 to 2.5 to 3 million, you could have probably that rock climbing wall and a slide or 2 even in there. So I thought that was quite a bit different compared to what Thatcher had presented, but then again, they would be including that zero entry as part of the
So it'd be a newer, updated version, but it wouldn't be the same thing that we're doing, because
The
yeah.
splash pad would be included in the new zero entry, where before with the committee, they talked about having a separate
Separate.
splash pad. But that splash pad, I think it's up to around 350,000, a standalone. And then you want that to be heated with heated water and recirculating the water too, instead of just a waste the water in there. Otherwise that gets really expensive to waste the water. So there's a lot of decisions to be made that way yet, but I think personally, just looking at it and with kids using, my own kids using the pool, I think if they had a decent pool to go swim in at $2.5 million with a slide and a rock climbing wall with a few amenities. The problem is we get into it only open 2.5, 3 months out of the year, and that's a good 2.5, 3 months, depending on your weather again, of course. And we really can't keep it open any longer than that because we lose all of our help. Our help is gone for they're mostly college kids and high school kids. Well, sports season starts early and the kids are off to college by the middle of August already. So that's where you run into a dilemma of trying to keep that pool open longer. I think a lot of people's ideas would be through Labor Day, but the reality of it is we just don't have staff to run it by then.
Curiosity, the diving boards will be removed, but we can't replace it with a diving board?
They have to be removed.
Well,
We don't have an option at this point.
They're rusted out and broken.
Yeah.
I think they probably could, but that would be quite a bit, I think even more cost than the rock climbing wall. I think because the rock climbing wall can be fastened the way it is, I think with the diving boards, you have to start getting down to, I don't know exactly how they are, but I'm sure that center pier of that diving board goes down a ways. So then they start, and that's all poured cement solid. So then it gets to be quite a bit extra cost. So I think just an easy way for them to figure to get something in that pool this year and something that you can carry over to another year is to add that rock climbing wall. So diving boards, you can maybe use part of them. I don't know, but once they're set in place, you got quite a bit of money tied up into them.
Yeah.
Right.
And the toddler pool, is that out of
So
the?
they were gonna scope it.
So I've got American Water Works. They're gonna come and do some testing of the lines to see if they can figure out that baby pool where we're losing our water and where I'm not able to run chlorine in right now. Just doesn't take chlorine. So that has something to do with the lines in the ground in and around the pool. So they're on schedule to come. We got the pool pumped down already now. We'll have to pump it out again, I'm sure, with the rain coming and stuff. But we got the majority of it pumped out, and we've talked to Thatcher about replacing all that tile around the outside and just plastering it up and repainting it versus putting the tile back in, because there's nothing behind it. It's all mush and we got a lot of voids in it. So it'd be just easier to replace all that tile and have them plaster it back up.
Sorry, I got a little lost, but the zero entry and the splash pad is with the new 2.5 million construction, not with the refurbishment of. So
If we refurbished it, we would have to refurbish the baby pool too, as it stands, without cutting into that pool anyway and putting a zero entry into it. So
with Burbach, the refurbishment at the 2.4 is the same exact thing that we have, just new. And then the refurbishment that he's talking about with Thatcher would be a zero entry with a possible built-in splash pad, because it recycles right into the pool. So it saves a ton of money not having it separate. And then that would have a possible slide, and then that rock wall that we would transfer over, but it would be a little bit different vessel. And then the construction of the building is kind of like what we're doing with the bathhouse here, just local contractors come and donating their time and trying to build a nicer house for us, save a ton of money. And so we're getting a lot more with their 2.4 or 2.5 than we are with the Burbach. But Burbach's already, taken us to this point, which the 5,800 or whatever was part of their commitment to starting a capital campaign for us with, continuing to move forward. And that would be one of the next steps for you guys to decide and get that started so we can fundraise for, the next 4 years and try to get as much as possible to get the best pool for this town.
So I think the way it would really have to go is we'd have to reconvene the pool committee, because I think they would have to order the fundraising committee. And, really, and we talked to Josh from Burbox last week, and really it could be a number of people, but I mean, he's talking anywhere from 20 to 30 extra people for this committee, which, the more you have out there, the more word you get out there. But definitely a definite plan to move forward with fundraising, and not because you could really screw it up too, just by going out and soliciting people, not having a plan in place. So definitely want a plan in place and to get this group formed. And I think the way to do it is to go back to that pool committee and have them kind of feel out. I mean, since we've kind of counted on them through this, I mean, we put them in place for a reason, and I think we got to go back to them. That's just my opinion. I don't know. And I think it's a fair way to go since we've already got them in place.
Vested interest, so I would assume that would be fair.
Yeah, and get final numbers and stuff from Thatcher Pools too, but present that back to the pool board like, hey, we got these numbers coming in for this other pool, which is kind of similar, which, that might appeal a lot of people's interest, because they were all over the board in the committee. They did a fantastic job, but, they started way up and then worked their way down to that one, but still, that's pretty high for this little community, so.
Do you have any discussion you'd like to add?
I'm sorry, I couldn't really hear that last part. Were you asking me, or no? I didn't hear what you said.
You're a little muffled if you want
Oh,
to.
I'm sorry.
Scott, you can.
Yeah, just wanted to take a minute to give you guys a chance for a moment to speak.
Cool.
So this is Mary. Just to clarify again, just to open this year, we're looking at anywhere from 66,000 to a little over 100,000 if we go with a climbing wall. Is that right?
Right. We'd like to stay below the 100,000 mark. Without a climbing wall or a heater, the work is $32,248. Without a heater replacement, that would just be and I think we can get by without the heater replacement this year. I had them go through it 2 years ago. But without the heater, just the rock climbing wall, and what the other work is $59,968. But that does not include any of the work on the vessel of the pool yet. And I think we're looking at probably 30-some thousand in work just on that vessel, that pool. That's barring them not finding a whole lot in the infrastructure piping outside too, so.
And the goal is, Mary, is to make this last the 4 years of the campaign to
Sure.
raise the funds for the new pool.
Yep. And do we have the money to do this somewhere?
Yes, we do.
Okay, perfect. So in my opinion, I think that's the way we should do it, and then send it back to the pool committee so that we can try to get in with that 2.5 million pool.
Start out with it,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to clarify I just have a couple questions in clarifying. So the diving boards will be gone this year, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. And then, not perfect, but I just want to make sure that. And then also, I know that you said that you had American Waterworks coming to look at the baby pool. Or the toddler pool, whatever you want to call it. Do we have a guess as to when we think that will that we'll have a decision on that, if we'll be able to use that or not this year. Just wondering because to plan lessons, and I know that we do typically offer toddler lessons, but they are in that pool.
So
So whether I offer them or not.
and I just talked to them, or I sent in the paperwork last week. I have not heard from them yet. But I would think within the next couple weeks that they would be scheduling some time with us. But I know the last year, and that they ended up doing those toddler lessons in that 3-foot end of the pool. And I know that isn't ideal, but I think that's how they worked it in the last year, 2 years ago, is I think how they worked that in.
Okay, sounds good. I just have a flyer that I'm getting ready and would like to put it out in the next week-ish or so people have about a month to prepare for sign up. So just was curious. Thank you very much for the information.
So Ann, question for you. Does the lack of diving boards change the amount of resources you need or change the schedule for swimming lessons that you might be presented with without boards?
So I think that without boards, I think that what we're kind of running into a little bit, I think, as I'm looking through the state's COVID-19 preparedness type guidelines for pools, is the space that there needs to be between students while they're doing lessons. And I know that just from observing, as somebody in the past, I don't think that there was ever 6 feet between each student as they were on the wall and fitting all of the lessons in at the same time. So if that is the guidance that they've given us, we're definitely gonna need to be able to spread out more. And so Miranda and I had kind of discussed this week, last week when I stopped in, that possibly spreading out the time more. So instead of like a 50-minute lesson, do an hour-long lesson, so that students, or 45 to an hour instead, so that students, half of the classes in the pool and half of the classes out. So then, because otherwise there's no way we'll fit 6 levels around that pool with all of the kids 6 feet apart all at the same time. But with a lack of diving boards, it actually might give us more space to work with that way for lessons. I don't know what that looks like for, like, I'll have to look lesson wise if students have to pass different things with a diving board at upper level lessons, like level 5 and 6, if they need to pass certain skills on a diving board or not. I'm not sure. So I'll have to kind of look into that to see if that changes anything in that way. But I think kids will be bummed out if there's not anything there. Yeah, I'm sure that if you've been to the pool at all, you see that they line up to do tricks off the diving board, like it's their job. So well, I think that the addition of a rock wall would be a great asset, but I think lesson wise, I'd have to check to see if it changes anything requirement wise for students, but it might be an advantage for space. So I'll do some checking on that end.
How about lifeguards? Have you been getting any applications in for lifeguards?
Yes, so I actually have 15 guards that have applied, and about approximately half of them are returning guards and the other half are not. I feel that I'm at a little bit of an advantage because I work at the school and have taught a lot of the kids who are that age, so I know the majority of the students who've applied. And I feel really good about the guards that have applied. I actually have called them all and talked to them. I've left them a voicemail asking them, just like lining up certifications and stuff so I can schedule some trainings. But I feel in communication with Kaya, who used to be in the pool, and then Miranda, that that 15 is a pretty good number so far. I know we had put in the paper that we were going to close applications on the 9th. So we'll see if we get any more. And I used to coach sports and stuff with some of these kids too. So I've kind of, hey, come work at the pool. So we'll see if we get any more, but 15 for sure so far, which I'm really good about.
And that's a better number than last year. Last year, of course, was a unprecedented year, but so in the past, I think they've been looking at between 20 and 25. That's where they really feel comfortable with that number. So yeah, if we can just do some more recruiting of any way we can, it'll be.
Yeah, I put it in the school news, so the students see it on the school news every day. I'll kind of talk to the guards that are out there too and just say, hey, if you have any friends who are thinking about it or would be kind of interested in it, please, please ask them to apply. When I had talked to Kaya, she said that she felt like that you could do it within in the teens, you know, but that it would obviously be beneficial to have more than that. So as I talk to them, I'll kind of reach out to them more and have them.
As with everybody else, their summers are summer vacations and they put in their time off right away too and stuff. So it gets tricky that way when you have, so the more numbers, the better off we are that way. But
Absolutely.
that sounds good. That, like I said, that sounds good compared to last year. We couldn't even fill enough spots, but I think that last year was really, really hard on everybody.
Typically, how many people do we need to run the pool? Like how many guards is a typical number?
I think in the past, I think that number, like I said, I think between 20 and 25, they've had that many staff out there, you know, and like Kaya said, you could probably do it in the teens. The more staff you have, the better, because everybody's busy, even if you got a full-time summer job lifeguarding, those kids are busy with other stuff too, vacations.
Right.
Absolutely. I will keep working on that.
Let's rally back to the discussion on the sub $100,000 expenditure for refurbishing the pool for the 2021 season, right? So do we need a motion to get those funds going and get this repair happening within the month?
We probably should.
Is everyone comfortable bringing the conversation back to that?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Are we proposing then we put a ceiling of 100,000 on it, so it needs to be sub 100,000 and carry that motion?
The wording actually is to stay under 100,000, so I think we'll stay with that wording, otherwise I'll get myself in trouble with Kim.
I would like to make a motion to go ahead and approve the sub $100,000 repairs and open the pool for this coming season.
I'll second, Mary.
In favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Want any more on the unfinished about the campground? Or is there any more business that we need to discuss along those lines? I know the bathroom up at the shelter, we're gonna, hopefully pretty soon, we're gonna start putting the sewer and water in for that new bathroom up there, which will make that nice. So for your information, Kayla, they're gonna put a new bathroom up by the shelter, that shelter that gets rented. It's on the north side of the park, up close to a swimming pool development. They're gonna install a new bathroom up there. That's moving along, and I've talked with Schumacher's, and they're gonna be installing that sewer and water pretty soon here, so. Otherwise, I think the campground, we've decided we're gonna wait until we get more funding grants written for that. We've got more opportunities to get grants, and we wanna do that right, so we can make sure that we get those funding available for that. I think that's why it got late in the season here when the grants were coming due in March, and we hadn't got far enough on that yet. We had a turnover and the people with CETA here that are helping us with the grants, we had a turnover there too with a new person involved now. So we thought it was just best to wait on that until next year.
It's a big one that we're gonna try to go after, do a lot of things with. The trestle bridge out there and the campground, and there's a lot of things that gotta get done. So we wanted to make sure it was written right and not rushed. And there's gonna be more funding coming for health and wellness for towns coming up. So there's a lot of things in play, and kind of just held off on that. But there's gonna be a campground in the works up there, a little bit bigger.
Discussion from past information, Troy and Kayla especially, about campground improvements is one of our priorities. Really working hard to make it something special, usable, a great increase in usage.
And also the ice rink's getting paved here. So there's going to be concrete on the ice rink out here. That's going to turn into a half basketball court. And then there's going to be an area for the pickleball.
So I think,
over there.
I guess we got that a little further down, but Fred had a little drawing of that, and up for discussion with the park board of how he envisioned that to go, but I don't know if we got, that was something he just came in today, and as long as we're talking about it, I guess we can look at it. He had 3 pickleball courts, 2 shuffleboard courts, and then 48 feet of the rest of that for another basketball court on the end. I think did you all have, oh, she's got the drawing up there. You're way ahead of me.
Yep.
But, and then the only thing I think with the shuffleboard courts was that had to be a little smoother. Whoever does the cement work had to spend a little extra time on that, dimensions of that and get those laid out a little smoother. So, but the pickleball courts, as far as I know, and I don't know much about that stuff, but there must be nets that have to be put up. Now, whether they're something that we have to anchor in afterwards and then take out, or if they're a standalone item.
So they're like a standalone, but the little pickleball committee or whatever group that's around here, we actually do not have to purchase any nets or anything. They have their own. They're going to bring their own, set them up and tear them down.
So that was the other thing for discussion. Fred was wondering if it maybe at minimum, the park board will end up purchasing one. So James, we got the Gaga ball court from our scout, Griffin Henricks, and I believe they keep a ball at the library. James has offered to keep stuff there. So what Fred's question was, and we got a little time to work on that yet, but is possibly purchasing something like that and keeping that at the library as well, along with the shuffleboard. I don't know what that was. Sticks?
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
Sticks and whatever they use for that. And possibly, and James is, like I said, gracious enough to let us keep stuff over there and they can check it out over there. But this is a little bit of what he had, unless somebody else had some other ideas of how that should be laid out. And I think most of this, except for those 2 shuffleboard courts, because they have to be finished a little different, just is going to involve painting. Painting out the courts was my understanding, so.
Painting the court? I wanted to hear about that again. I forgot what answer I got. Are we decorating it with maroon? Something that wraps in the covered bridge kind of look to it?
I don't think we can go that dark on there for the ice rink wise, I guess. I think all we were looking for was the lines, and then like the shuffle ball you have, or the shuffle court, you got to have that triangle with the different colors, but trying to stay to pretty neutral colors just because it will melt the ice that much faster as soon as that sun gets on there in the winter.
So would the cement then exclude a liner? I'm assuming they're still going to have to use a liner. Would the liner cover the paint?
No, we're not going to use a liner anymore
They
because
go
they're,
without a liner?
yep, because they're about $800 every year. So if they get damaged, that's another $800 every year. So we're just going to try to freeze it. Even with the gravel last year, that free skating rink, it's like when it got cold, it grabbed right away and it was just so much nicer than that ground soaking it up. So
Sure.
we got high hopes. We're going to paint the bottom rows of boards so we can get a little less reflection off there because it's going to get soft. But we're going to go with trying to just, get it one layer at a time with that cold and be able to freeze right to it. And we were talking about even taking maybe old fire hose and putting them underneath the boards to try to minimize what seeps underneath, but yeah.
That's right. I didn't know if the liner would allow the suggestion of some more graphic paint schemes and then cover that up. My only concern in looking at the proposal is that the basketball hoop or whatever that is put there would be removable, because that's right where kind of like the free skate area is that we had this year.
Which we're changing that now too, but this basketball court where they got it laid out, that'll actually be right directly underneath the tree.
Yep.
So it'll be, 20 yards off of where the warming house was.
Yep.
So it'll be way out of the way and it'll be off to the side of the driving path that you get down there.
Sure.
Just enough. But the new free skating rink, what we're gonna try to do next year is we were able to save that liner that was in the hockey rink, and because we're not gonna use it, we're gonna move that over to where they had the soccer field on the side.
Yep.
And we're gonna try to make a free skating rink over there with that liner. And then Mike's gonna help out with the city, and they're gonna push the snow off because they don't have boards to mess with the snow. And so we're gonna try to have two completely separate areas for next year. And because there was such a high demand for the skating this year, so.
That's one thing I noticed as a frequent user of the ice this year is that there was a lot of people down there who couldn't even use the ice.
Yep.
Because as they tried to use the ice, there's so many kids, it was very, very popular, obviously, this
Yep.
winter.
Yep.
It just got to be a point where the family or the younger kids couldn't even use the ice. So dual ice would be great, and to make it so that it's usable within almost skating distance of the warming house. That was one other thing is I saw a lot of kids struggling to get from the warming house to the ice. But my only concern with the basketball hoop is if you end up having ice all the way up to there, but I guess if the boards don't go all the way up to the thing.
They'll stop about where the basketball court starts, maybe a little bit before like the 3-point line or whatever. But we're gonna try to stay about the same area. If we do get enough funds to extend it, we could have that opportunity in the future, but it's a good size the way it is. So
The
those
more
are,
ice, the better, obviously.
so those are kind of some of the things we're gonna do to adjust for the two skating areas because it was so popular this year. And, yeah.
Is the field next door ready for soccer then, upcoming soccer events?
That's pulled down here pretty soon.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna start that this spring too, right? The soccer.
Yeah, that's right around the corner, I'm pretty sure.
I think that completes the unfinished business. We'll move forward to the new business. We can talk about new locks for the softball building.
So I am requesting that that you guys allow us to get new locks on the doors out there. When I rent those softball fields, I'm supposed to be taking a $100 deposit for a key. And then when they give the key back, they get their money back. This will be the third season now, and I have yet to give a key or receive a key. But the fields are clearly being used. So I'm just running into issues where when people actually contact me to rent it for things, like the school called this year to rent it for a large chunk of time. And I gave it to them because nobody else has called me, nobody else has contacted me, but I can almost guarantee that people with keys are gonna end up out there at the same time as the school. So I would just like to rekey it, because I think that would then prompt them to contact me and say, hey, my key doesn't work.
Yep. Okay.
I just think I'll need to get a handle on the schedule.
Absolutely.
Would you like a keypad or something more high tech than a lock and key?
I think we've thought about that. I don't know.
Issue you have now with keys out there, if you had a pad, it's like if you give.
True. I think with the physical key, we can almost guarantee that they're gonna give it back. Otherwise, they don't get their $100 back.
Once you got the number out, you don't need to come back and ask permission for the same number or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I was thinking maybe a resettable digital password you could change every month or something.
We could. I guess I was looking to just cut down on cost. Because it doesn't,
2 restrooms, right? And then a padlock for the access.
I've honestly never been out there to see, is that what it would be?
The third door on the south side, I would say that gives you access into the.
To the utility side,
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, 3 door keys is not a lot.
But yeah, it would help regulate and start over, fresh start.
And I know we've talked in the past too about making like a Google Calendar, a shared calendar,
Yep.
because it's always been in the past really kind of first come, first serve. I didn't even realize that there was like a schedule where you could rent it and do the thing, so.
When
Yes.
Brian started here, he said, oh, I have one of those keys. I'm like.
Yeah.
If that comes to be a Google Calendar of signups that you can put on Facebook or something.
Well, and we have a new website now, and I'm still trying to kind of navigate it to see if there's a way I can do a sign up calendar of some sort. Because we have our shelter that we rent too, so it would just be nice to have, a calendar that people could actually use. rather than, have to call or email back and forth with me. So we're still trying to explore that stuff too. But yeah, I would be open to a Google Doc, or, we could just keep doing it through me,
Yep.
then I could manage it better too.
Can I mention it was back 2 months ago, an ice rink sign-up sheet? And maybe
Oh.
we can incorporate into that calendar.
Yeah, that's something we could look at for next season too.
Okay, thank you.
If you're planning on having a large game or something going on, or whatever you call it.
Cool, we'll work that out. Well, a motion is necessary to purchase some keys and locks for our softball fields and going to Miranda to manage.
And I don't know, like a cost, so I don't know if you guys want to set a limit for that.
3 key doors wouldn't be that much. I don't know that we even need to put a limit on that, do we?
Okay. Okay.
Typically, I think we use Bowman locks out of Rochester. I think that's what
Correct.
we've used in the past.
Motion to approve the rekeying of the 3 doors at the softball field shelter out there.
I'll second.
In favor, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Next on the agenda is the community garden lease agreement for 2021 and 2022.
So this originally came up and went through council when this first originally came up. And then it's been determined that that's parkland. So it falls under the park board jurisdiction instead of the council. So what we need to do is have you guys approve the lease agreement with Gary Harbaugh for the community garden.
This is over here, not by the softball field?
This is the one that Mr. Harbaugh has over here by West Avenue and 4th Street.
Kitty corner behind the post office there.
Amazing garden.
Yeah,
Really
that was-
beautiful.
Seemed very popular.
And then there's been some discussion that we can work on over time. With the lease is kind of specific and it's more, I think, geared towards just to cover everything. But so apparently there was an issue with that sidewalk. That sidewalk fell under the lease agreement. And so does the lawn mowing, but the sidewalk didn't get shoveled this winter. So Fred wanted just to mention that we can address that later on as we get into closer to the winter season and see what Gary's response is to that. Otherwise, that little bit of sidewalk, we could probably just take care of too. So all we really need is just a motion for the lease agreement.
I'll make a motion to approve the extension of the lease for the community garden.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the list, Ann, welcome back to the meeting. Thanks for coming on for us. We're going to discuss the new pool manager approval. President, you are doing a great impression with me with your COVID research and staffing preparedness that you're showing in this meeting alone. So thank you for doing that work.
I can vouch for that. She has been awesome to work with. And she's doing a great job.
I got a big list for you.
Sometimes I can probably be a little bit too organized and a little bit too over the top with it, but I guess it's better to be too prepared than not at all. So I'm very excited.
Yes, absolutely. I will definitely make a motion to approve Ann.
I'll gladly second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. I have a follow-up. Ann, do you have any needs from the park board this year? Can you please use a moment to tell us any needs that you expect from the park board?
So I can't think of any offhand needs. Like I said, I'm just kind of starting the staffing and getting into it, scheduling. some classes and that kind of stuff for lifeguards. And then also working on, I don't know if, I don't have the ability to share and I don't know how big my screen is on that side, but I've come up with a flyer for lessons and memberships that I'm not finished with yet. And so I had a couple questions about that for this week, but would be happy to share it with you all once I have it finished. And then
You could share with them, you're doing registration at City Hall this year. That's different, right?
yep.
Because-
So we had talked, I kind of talked to Kim and Miranda about doing registration and what's going to work best. And we kind of decided to do it here at City Hall, because we would then be able to use accept credit cards, cash and check instead of one or the other. And it makes it a central location for the entire sign up. So we, as of right now, we've planned on doing May 4th and 5th. And so that's why I wanted to get this out kind of this week. So there was approximately a month for families to plan for sign up. But it would be from 5 to 7 on the 4th and 5th at City Hall. And then I did put on the flyer here that there is a fee with cards. And I talked to Miranda about what that is. And then that sign up is also available at the pool once we open Monday, June 7th is the tentative start date. Is the week Memorial Day.
So everybody on the park board here is fresh since the last time we had the pool open. So
Okay.
the 2019 season, we actually did it online and it worked decently well, but it was kind of a lot of work on the back end for Kaya. So we wanted to just kind of take this year off. And Kim and I kind of decided we want to take this year off from an online format and just take the year then to maybe find something that's a little bit more convenient. Because I guess the last one that they were doing something about a Google Doc and she was having to transfer information over and payments
Basically
were a bit of a headache too. So we want to get a good method.
Yep.
What she had kind of explained is that, with every session, I think there's 3 sessions and 6 time slots per session and 6 levels per time slot. So she had to make a Google Doc for each individual one of those. And then the transferring of information, she said just didn't work very well. And so I was trying to figure out, well, how am I ever going to be able to figure this out when one, wasn't there, and 2, I'm not exactly sure what she did in regards to that. So I said, if we went back to a in-person sign up so that I can see the process and how that works, then next year I'll be able to say, okay, this would work really great for this. This isn't going to work. Instead of trying to do it blindly online, kind of walking in a little bit, feeling backwards with it. So yeah, I think in-person is going to work really well. And I think I did put on here that we are not accepting sign up over the phone so that they don't call Miranda and try to sign up constantly. But it is available at the pool once we open as well. So just for the ease of transition wide for new guards, especially because we have quite a few new guards and stuff this year. And myself being new to this position. I have guarded in the past, but I didn't work in Zumbrota at the pool. But I have been to the pool plenty of times. So kind of using a little bit of the background knowledge from being different places. I've also been in contact, just so you guys know, with different pool managers from the area, talking about trainings and can we send guards to different trainings together so that we're kind of condensing times or finding different times that work for different people. So that's kind of been a resource as well as I kind of start to plan.
I know we worked with Pine Island in the past for that. So that's,
yep, talking to Cheryl Dahl too from Kenyon this year a little bit. So kind of.
And then the other thing is I always try to get a training day with our MMUA safety coordinator, Mark Hoddle. Last year we did that at the shelter actually out there, but we tried to get all the guards together and he goes through just a very general safety, and I think that's well worth everybody's time.
Yeah, he was here last week, Thursday, when she stopped in.
Okay, so you met Mark, yeah.
So,
And
Mark, you would kind of solidify a date with him?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I'll work on that with Mark. And then I'd like just some of your time yet too to discuss maybe with Miranda, and we can discuss a little bit of that baby pool again moving forward and how maybe we want to approach that. Right now, I just have, even with them scoping it and figuring out, I have a little bit of doubts on that thing opening, but
Okay.
that's to be determined yet. So to move forward with scheduling lessons, it may be whatever works for you for convenience. Maybe we can sit down and talk with Miranda and myself and Kim.
Yeah, so I'm at the school, and so my contract time is done at 3:30. So if we want to pick a day, I can come right up to City Hall after that. So
That'd
yeah,
be
whenever,
whatever. Thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
We've had quite an issue with trying to refurbish this pool and trying to get the funds going, and it's hard to get a nice refurbishment at this year for you. But just know that the past year of conversation and the excellent pool committee discussions fully support your work, and whatever you need to manage this pool this year, please let us know. We'll get
Okay,
this-
thank you so much. And same goes with you guys for me, you know, if there's anything that you see or hear or need, you know, some clarification on, or you'd like to discuss, please let me know. I'm all ears, open to everything. So the more communication, the better on my end.
Excellent. Should we talk about the lead lifeguard position request?
So this is something that Kim and I have been discussing a little bit, more so when we didn't have a manager yet. We were kind of wanting to explore the idea of having a lead lifeguard that would be on site, you know, because the manager typically isn't always at the pool, but just having a lead lifeguard that people can go to that's right there rather than have to call Ann and wait for her to call back, just for minor things. We don't have anybody we have in mind. We had originally had somebody we maybe thought, but I don't know if she's gonna return. So we were just kind of looking to see if that's something that you guys would even want us to have or think is a good idea.
Does Ann have anybody that she's leaning towards to be her number one go-to, or?
So in looking through the list of guards that I've had apply, like I said, I mean, obviously I would prefer to have somebody that had been at the pool before. There is 3 of them that have guarded there for at least 3 years, and one of them has been for 4. The one that has been there for 4 years, she's not going to be here full time because she's also at college. So there's like 2 or 3 days a week that she isn't here, but she's available the other 4 to 5 days. So I don't know that it would be best to have somebody that isn't going to be here, but there is, like I said, there's 2 other ones that have been guards for 3 years that I think could be good candidates, especially if that's something they're interested in. So I could talk to them about that if that's something that you guys think is appropriate. I mean, I think it sounds like a good idea, but like I said, being new to this position, I'm not exactly sure, you know, what the needs are that fall in that category.
So
But I don't
from
think it sounds like a bad idea.
I think from my standpoint, it's a needed position. And not that I want to throw anybody under the bus, but they are young people. They need direction daily, and there's stuff that actually falls way behind out there and obviously we can't expect the manager there all the time, but we need somebody to kind of crack down just a little bit. I mean, it's simple things as far as getting money out of the pop machine. We ended up pulling money out of the pop machine at the end of the year last year that was moldy. That's how much money was shoved in there that didn't get removed.
Wow.
That stuff just has to be taken. There's daily stuff. And it's written down. I mean, it's all written down for them, but you just need that person there to kind of guide them and
Accountability.
Right.
Yeah.
So I see a need for that position on a daily basis.
And even with the COVID restrictions and everything, just having that person there, to make sure things are getting followed, make sure things are getting done, to take the pressure off her and take the pressure off Mike, it'd be really nice to have somebody down there.
So I have a suggestion in regards to that. So, I mean, you could do one person, but expecting, again, one person to be there a lot is maybe different. Maybe if, I've worked in a lot of restaurants in the past. And so sometimes it's not like I've worked where there's just a manager, that's on duty, but I've also worked in a place where it's like, they call it the floor manager. So it's the person who's in the lead, who's on that shift. So maybe you pick, maybe we go through and we pick and discuss and talk to 3 to 4 different guards and just say, and maybe it's not like the one position, but maybe a different rate of pay for the person who's working in that position that day. And then they are kind of like the closing person or the person who's responsible for making sure the other people did their job. So like when the guards leave, they check out with that person and say, okay, I've done, this is my list of things to do. I've done this, this, and this, and I'm going to show you so that you know that I'm finished with my stuff, because then that responsibility falls on that person who's getting paid, you know, a little bit more to check with that person, like the closing guard who's then responsible for what's going on. And that also might eliminate a little bit of the cost. Instead of paying one person that all the time, it's whoever that one person is on maybe makes a slightly higher pay during that shift.
This is
I
why
think
you're.
that's a good idea.
This sounds great.
And maybe not, but I
You
think
can
that's
bring my idea to life.
Well, coming from, you know, I lifeguarded at a bunch of different pools too for like 7, 8 years. I don't even know how long it's been anymore. And just having, because there have been pools that I've worked at where the manager or the lead person, whatever, they just decide that they're only going to work days and then leave for the rest of the day. And so then there's a bunch of people at night who, you know, if something emergent happened, or even if it was something minor, you know, they didn't have anybody to go to. And then of course they wouldn't answer their phone when they called. And so I think that would be a really good idea, because I ended up stepping up and doing that because nobody else wanted to do it. And I'm like, well, somebody's got to do it, because, you know,
Well,
what are we
like
going to
you
do about this kid that's
Right,
bleeding
and
on the
like-
deck or whatever, you know?
And like you said, Ann, everybody's gonna have their own schedule. I mean, so there's days that that person wouldn't be working anyway, because they're gonna be on a schedule like everybody else. So I think to have that floor person, like you called it, is a good idea.
Yeah, and
I
not,
think it'll definitely help Ann with the scheduling side of things. Like she said, her primary candidate can't make it all the time. Plus it allows the accountability that Mike talked about. And it's an incentive for those others that have been there 3-4 years or whatever, say, hey, I want to step up. I want to be a shift lead this weekend.
Yeah.
So I think that accountability and responsibility is going to foster a whole new culture out there.
And it
And I
gives
think-
us at City Hall a good point person too. Because we run into issues on deposits that we just have no idea what the thought process was for it.
Time
So
card,
And time cards
Time
too. So
cards
it
is
would give us a
another
good point person, say, hey, this person was the shift lead the day this deposit went through, so let's see
And if you got,
what.
if you got problems with time cards, you can go to that person and say, hey,
Yeah.
you go get a hold of, instead of you having to track all these people down,
Yes.
you got one point of contact
Yes,
that they can take care of, and that's what they would be getting paid for essentially.
Right, and that's Ann's checklist. She just said, I have these things to do, and the point of
Yep.
contact for that date was this person.
And I think, you know, for scheduling purposes too, I was discussing with a couple of the guards, because they said, well, how do you plan on doing schedules? They said, I've worked places where they do the schedule for the whole summer, and I've worked where they do it a week in advance. And I said, you know, as much as it would be nice to have the entire summer done at a time, I think that that's really, when you're working with high school kids and college kids, that's not realistic. They don't plan their whole summer out. They don't barely plan 2 weeks out. I know that. It's okay.
Yeah,
So,
I
you
think, yeah. I think
And it
in
was-
the past, they've probably gone, at the most, they got that first month out, you know, they maybe a month at a time.
And I said I would plan to do at least I would always be this is what I've thought of so far, is to be at least 2 weeks ahead. So if I'm talking for today's Monday, so I will at least have the schedule done for the next 3 weeks, so that they're always going to see it come out, so then they can make plans and changes as they need to. And I think it's also important, because they're high school and college kids, and to avoid them not showing up to things, or not showing up when they decide that they have something else that came up better. I think to give them the flexibility to be able to switch shifts with other people is important, but having like this lead guard position would also take a lot of the responsibility off of the fact that I don't want someone who has been there for 3 to 4 years, who I put on knowing that they'd be responsible in that shift, to switch with somebody who's a brand new guard. So maybe if you're the shift lead and your schedule is that, you can't switch with anybody else unless it's someone who is capable of being a shift lead. So I know that there's always that one person who's much more experienced there. I think that having this like position of a lead guard on during each shift would allow for peace of mind in that respect too. And it'll still allow them to have the flexibility as they are college and high school kids. So I think that's a great idea.
So then I guess we could just look for, what do you guys think would be an appropriate? Like, are you looking for like 50 cents more, $1 more than what they're making? Because well, I suppose we could wait and discuss that too, because we have to approve the wage scale for this year too.
I think it's a
Or
good
do you
idea.
want to move, should we move right into the wage scale?
I would move into the wage scale and see what you're playing with.
I'll put it up on the screen for you guys at home to see. Can you guys see that? Is it big enough?
Yep.
Yeah.
Very good, thank you.
So the first column where it just says guard, that's just when they're doing their normal lifeguarding shift. And then the WSI column is when they're teaching lessons. And then obviously you can see that it goes by year, or if they're under the age of 18, where we start them at.
So they never, so just for clarification purposes, they never move into like the year tier system until they're over age 18?
I believe so.
Okay.
That's how this is exactly how Kim had it mapped out.
Okay.
Just for clarification, how are these wages compared to last year? I guess last year when we opened, the previous year that we were open.
I did not confirm that with her.
You know, what we could do is put together a little bit of list, actually.
I could look back into years
And
prior
email it
to.
out to you. But I think in the past, even I know Pine Island called one year and said we're way ahead of them. You know, everybody was kind of scrambling to see where guards were getting paid, and we did pretty good. I think they gave them a bump. Was it 2 years ago? They upped their. You weren't here then.
I think they get because I think Kim did factor in a bump for them, but I'm just not sure of what the last scale was.
And the reason for the question is obviously in the past, we've had some concern and trouble trying to get applicants. Sounds like Ann's done a wonderful job of getting recruits this time. So I didn't know if that was directly reflected to some wage discussions, but it sounds like we are very competitive.
Yeah, I think we're pretty comparable.
I actually have not shared any wages with anyone, just for everybody's, just so for your peace of mind, because I was not sure if this was, I knew it was proposed, so I didn't want to say anything that wasn't going to be true. So I have not shared it.
I just didn't want to tie your hands behind your back, Ann, if you had already discussed some certain things, or worse yet, they were under the assumption that we were going to pay the same as neighboring pools. And then you get back to them with something here and they say, well, I can make, $2 more an hour at this pool, so I'm going to go over there, and then you lose the 15 applicants.
Right. Yeah, I have not said anything about wages to anyone, just for that pure reason. I don't want to be caught in the middle of saying something that's not true.
I think the fair thing to do is get back with Kim and double check on some of that stuff.
Yep, I'll have her give me a comparison.
In thinking about a like head lifeguard position, pay wise, I don't know, this is maybe a Kim question too. Is it easier if they're scheduled as the head guard to have just like a head guard rate of pay and this is what it is? Or does it have to be based off each individual person? Because I don't know what the best thing to do is that way, because I don't do anything financially.
Well, and the other thing of it is, I think you're creating a new position, so I think you create a new scale for them. I think when you're doing this, I think you're creating a new job title. So then I think you can create a new pay scale. Because your question is, if they're in year 2 and they're going to be this lead person, how do they fall under with this pay scale at year 2? But I
Right,
think
like, is a head card different for the person who's year 2, 3, and 4? Is it a different rate of pay, or is it just you're the lead guard, this is your
I
pay?
think you're creating a new job.
Well, but we could look at it too as, like, let's say we have 4 leads, call them A, B, C, and D. Let's say that
1, 2, 3, 4.
or 1, 2, 3, 4, sure.
Year 1, 2, 3, 4.
So let's say on Saturday, the first Saturday in June, the 4 lifeguards that can, there's only 4 lifeguards that can work and 2 of them are people that can be leads. So we don't need 2 leads. So only one of them would be designated lead. The other one can still work, they're just not gonna get paid lead pay.
Right.
So that's why I think we should maybe consider just adding a dollar amount to their current
Oh,
wage.
I would
Yeah.
think that would make more sense too. It's almost like a shift differential. So
Right.
if you're on
Right.
an off shift, you're getting more money.
Yes,
Because to Ann's point, she's got a couple candidates, and I think you should set, and this would be Ann's decision, but you set a prerequisite to say you have to have minimum number of experience, like say 3 years. But if you had 2 candidates, one with 3 years experience and one with 4, I would think rather than them both making the same rate, shift lead on that Saturday.
Yeah.
The person who's got 4 years would still make their 25 cents or 50 cents more.
Yep.
Versus the person with 3 years.
right. I think it would just keep it fair for that person with more
Correct.
experience.
So you, to Miranda's point, you'd have a certain dollar amount bump for a shift lead or for a supervisor role for that night.
Kind of like what they got going on with the lessons there, you know, it's 50 cents more for lessons than it is for regular lifeguard hours.
Right.
So if you give the lead, you know, per year they've been there, maybe $1 more at the year. So, you know, I mean, at 3 year, you're at 11.75, and at 4 year, you're at 12, you know, and it kind of worked it that way. That way, if they're on for the lessons, you know, they make $1 more than that already increased, but you know that they're your lead, and then you have a dollar amount that goes with that lead.
Yep.
It's just $1 around the board, and then that person can be, you know, a bit more responsible.
it gives your staff opportunities to take advantage of a leadership role at different levels.
Right. It gives them an incentive to actually want to take the shift versus just, I'll take it if I have to kind of a thing, because I'm getting paid the same no matter what.
Absolutely. And I think when I do scheduling, just for ease of that, I think when I, if I look at the schedule and like you said, I have 3 guards who technically could be the lead. I'm going to go with the one who either gives me the most availability or the one that has the most years of experience, probably the most years of experience, and then tiebreaker on availability wise or whatnot. So who I give the lead shift to, but they'll just be designated on the schedule as like in the top lead guard. And then, so I think that I mean, if $1 is what you're thinking, I think that's a very fair rate. And I think that that's enough to motivate kids to want to be in that position.
$1 enough to motivate me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mike would like an application.
Mike wants to be your lead.
Who's like a motion.
Hey, that's good to know, Mike, because I had to clarify with Miranda that I did not have to put a swimsuit on every day to walk around the pool.
That's in my job description.
Oh, that's why we have Brett. That's why we have Brett.
Well, some issues that I want to propose changes to are just dropping the start under 16 and then having a year 1, 2 ranking from a 16-year-old forward, if that's just an opinion of mine.
It could be a legality
I
thing.
think, I think we have to
16 is
look at.
considered a minor.
I
And I
kinda
think that
Check into that.
we can ask him, but I think that's why it's.
I understand that.
And I think it might be that if you're under 18, we can get away with paying them less because they're under 18. I don't know that it's that you have to, but that you can get away with it. I do think that it would be a little bit more motivating for students who are in high school, who gives us a little bit more availability maybe than a college student if it is, $10 or $10.25 instead of $9.50. Just like, $9.99 versus $10. It's interesting how much more that $10 brings. So I don't know, just that I kind of agree with your thought process, but definitely something to check on.
Yeah, I can have a conversation with Kim about that and we can bring that back to the main
See
meeting.
where that circles around to.
Yep.
but-
I think it would definitely help Ann from a recruiting standpoint, especially people want to come back for their second year, even if they're only 17, they're already being bumped up that 75 cents.
Sure.
That'd be a very nice bonus.
Yep, this is definitely Kim's wheelhouse, so
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'll bring it to her and have her write me up a little thing that I can bring to you guys.
As far as reimbursement for training, I think we should fully support reimbursement. And even if you have later, not just first-time lifeguards, but later lifeguards that want further training, I think a culture of development is a good thing for
Currently how we do it is we do pay for everybody's research. We just were unclear about whether or not we paid for new oncoming lifeguards. So we just wanted clarification on that and just kind of to see what you guys thought about reimbursing those, because I think that would be helpful too in recruiting kids.
Huge.
I think that there should definitely be something tied to it, though. I think that if you're gonna, we're gonna reimburse you after you've worked for 2 months or at the end of the first season or something.
Yeah.
So it's not, we're not gonna pay for you right away and then you're gonna quit in 2 weeks. I think you should tie to it, but I absolutely think that reimbursement is super important and is a huge draw.
That would have been my proposal as well. There's been jobs that I've worked where the training is there and after the completion of the season, you get reimbursed. So if you stay on the whole season, the training is reimbursed. So at the end of the season, we'll reimburse you 100% of your funds.
That's an excellent idea.
I think that's fair.
I agree with that.
Yeah, okay. Any further discussion on this topic? Okay, we will follow through next meeting with Kim's proposal for wages.
I think you should almost do them both, because then you can do the wage and stuff with the new position, along with Kim's findings on the stuff that's coming up.
Correct. Yeah, jotted down notes to your suggestion, Chris, is like maybe just adding a flat rate on top of, anything above the equivalency of a shift lead, which would be like a minimum of 3 years experience or something, that we add the dollar to either the flat guard rate or the WSI rate and say this would be a third column. You'd have the shift lead position, and then that would obviously be rated for each year, 3 years on up.
Yep. I don't think we would need, well, yeah, you're right. Never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, and those are all things I would push through Kim before I would try to move forward.
Yeah, right. Just an updated table for the
Yep.
next meeting.
Okay.
Yep, definitely.
Kim, next meeting, as far as discussing wages with your staff, Ann, I would just hold off like you're doing.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Do you think it's fair that I have like in regards to reimbursement, not necessarily the lead guard, like, do you think it's fair that I tell them that we're thinking about doing some sort of lead guard and asking the students who I think would fit that, but not discuss the money part of it yet and just say it's kind of in the works? Is it something that you'd be interested in?
Rolling is key. I think, yeah,
Absolutely. Especially with the 2 or 3 candidates that you said you have, that may lock them in for the season.
yeah, and it'll
Right.
probably really help you with building those relationships and nice and early. So I would say go ahead with that, and even, showing your new recruits that, if they commit to the year or whatever, we're willing to reimburse them.
Yeah, I was gonna say the reimbursements can be big as they start to get signed up for trainings and stuff. So if I can just talk to them about that, we're discussing exactly what reimbursements are gonna look like, but that we think it's gonna be like, I mean, what do you guys think is fair to share in regards to reimbursement?
If you guys want to go ahead with that I think we should make a motion on that with what you guys are going to require of them.
I think, moving everybody up, I think that's.
I would absolutely, because I think we can combine the lead thing and the pay rate and table that for next time. But I think we should definitely, and I will, make a motion for full reimbursement for a new lifeguard training at the end of a completed full first year season.
And are we gonna do reimbursement for full lifeguard training, recertification, and WSI certification? Because those are the 3 that they would need and or pursue. The WSI is to teach the swimming lessons.
Is it correct that we already do full reimbursement for recertification and WSI for all returning lifeguards?
That I think that we do for the recertification, but I'm not sure on the WSI.
I think the WSI we do.
Just to foster the culture that we talked about, I would like to lump it all together, and I would like to make a motion for full reimbursement for recertification, WSI training, and for initial certification on new guards that complete the full year.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone.
Was there anything we missed from you, Mary? Did you need a minute to speak?
No, I'm good. Everything that, I agree with everything. So yep, I'm very good. Thank you.
That's all I have on the agenda tonight. Is there any new business or new discussions? This is the time to bring it forth.
So I included the COVID-19 preparedness plan for the pool. I believe it's similar to what it was last summer when we had plans for it. I know there was a couple things that Ann was maybe a little concerned about. Like one of the things it says is you need to have a preparedness plan. Is that what we had been calling it?
So I did, that's all put together from last year. I
Okay,
think we can-
that's what I thought.
We used that plan for carried over. Yeah, I got a plan for the parks, a plan for city council got a plan, parks got a plan, and the pool got a plan. And they were all approved.
And
Signed.
so the other thing that I had kind of talked to Miranda about, and that's a little bit why she attached this. Well, two things I mentioned before was the swimming lessons, they have to be 6 feet apart during lessons. The instructor does not have to be 6 feet apart when directly instructing the student. But the students do have to be 6 feet apart. So I was talking about either extending the lesson time by 15 minutes so that they're able to have half the kids in the pool, half out. So otherwise we're gonna have to cap lesson groups at, much smaller numbers. But if we just extend by 15 minutes, we can still allow a lot of the same amount of students and the loss of money probably is less in that regard. And then the other thing was the capacity of the pool. So I don't know how you guys had figured it out last year, but they gave a lot of guidance in here about how to figure it out. And I didn't know if it was the pool itself, the deck, or the combination of all three. Or the combination of both of them.
I remember it being difficult last year.
So I'd have to go back and we had the number recommendation from, that's so long ago, that must have been 10 years ago already. So
Feels like it.
But I'll go back and look at that again.
Okay, and that's something we need after.
I think it's important to point out too, during our discussion about extending the lesson times, you had mentioned that would remove an entire lesson session time, right?
It would, but I think if you don't have to limit, if you can keep, say 10 students in a lesson group at a time, because you have 5 in the pool and 5 out, then you still have 10 times 45 or whatever it is, so 450 per group, where you lose out on a whole lesson time, but if you can only have 5 students in a lesson, then you cut that directly in half to 225 per group, and
You guys are aware that would be the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you don't make it up in that one lesson time, so. Right. But that's just we didn't know kind of what the best thing was to do, and we wanted to discuss it with the board all at one time to see what your guys' opinions are on the whole thought.
Was there anything else in here that stuck out to you, Ann?
We had kind of discussed like the wearing of masks and how that's going to be, but they give you a lot of guidance in these. I'm looking at it in paper in front of me. A lot of it is pretty common that I'm used to at school and at working at a restaurant, and unfortunately it's very.
Yeah, last year, even though we didn't open, obviously, we taped off 6 foot. So entrances coming in was all taped off at your 6 foot. Your diving boards, I don't know how they line up. We'll probably have to tape something off for a rock climbing wall if that's what we end up with, so they can only stand. And then we posted our signs. We put a plexi shield up in the entryway there for them. And the tape marks were taped 6 feet going out the door. I think we were pretty covered that way. I think we had everything pretty well in line. The bathrooms get tricky, but there was, then we talked about did they mention that anywhere? They can only come in and go out one way?
Oh, I haven't read it in its entirety. Did it mention that anywhere, Ann, that you remember seeing?
Last year, we talked about hiring extra people to staff that exit gate because we couldn't run people back out. And actually, they weren't able to go back into the bathroom to use the shower to shower out. That was just the way it was. They had to go back out and exit gate, but we had to staff that gate.
I don't think that there was verbiage in there about that, but I could be wrong. I do remember it saying in regards to mask wearing that they did not have to wear it in the shower. But I'll have to read through. I don't remember for sure.
So then one more thing is, the recommendation was that we removed all the chairs because they didn't want anybody sitting and congregating together. So,
I know that things
That-
have loosened up because I think last year it was only 25% when we were thinking about.
there was a difference in numbers, I know,
Yep.
last year. So
I don't, it says, I'm looking at the pool decking piece right now. It says locate deck furniture in accordance with distancing requirements. And then it's diving board slides or aquatic features are used. They must be marked for 6 feet. So it doesn't say that you can't have them. It just says they have to be 6 feet apart.
Sure.
And we could measure all that and mark it all off. To Mike's point, we can tape off literally the location of the chair. So if it gets moved back, the guards know exactly where to put it.
and that's great, because I think they get packed up every night just so in case the wind
Right.
would blow. So
Blown around.
Blown around,
Someone
right.
inadvertently grabs it and moves it.
Yep.
You can even put a little template and even paint it if the tape doesn't stick to the concrete out there.
Yep.
Template whiteboard in the office or something.
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, so if you guys have anything to add or any concerns about anything you see in here, just let us know. We're kind of making it a group effort between all of us.
Did you guys have any thoughts regarding lessons, like extending the time and removing one section of lessons, or any preference or thought on that?
I think we're kind of all on board with you, Ann. It's kind of your ship. I think whatever you want to sail with here, we're just gonna jump behind you. And if you have anything you need from us, we're gonna be here. But I think if you think that's the way it's gonna run,
The community needs, there might be a grand number of people really wanting to get into the pool and get lessons. So expect an increase in numbers, but with your registration numbers, pay attention to the community needs. And if you have space to rearrange at that time, I mean, that's going to be a squeeze, but.
I
Right.
just think that she has a point with trying to keep the kids socially spaced, spaced according to the thing. Because when you're trying to teach a swimming lesson and it's you and 12 kids, good luck trying to keep them apart. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like and are they going to be 6 feet apart constantly at all times? No, they're kids. Absolutely not. They're kids. I work at a school. I get that. But to have the space to be able to space them 6 feet apart and to encourage that at all times, I think is very important in following the guidelines and the recommendations. So, awesome. It's nice to know that I have your support. So thank you guys very much.
And when you have 5 in the water and 5 on the deck, is there a deck monitor then, or who is paying attention to those kids on the deck?
Yep. So I think that what we would do is schedule an extra person to be the deck monitor during that time. And I think, we always, from discussions with Kaya, I think that there was always an extra person or two scheduled during that time anyway, just to help monitor and to help with lessons. But you need one less person in the pool if you only have 5 in the pool and not 10. So I think stationing that person on the deck to help monitor the students in that way would be perfect.
And then I have a question about how are those kids taught, the lifeguards taught to do CPR? Do they do push only, or are they required to do a form of mouth to mouth?
So they are, sorry, go ahead.
well, last year, I think it was just the compressions. Mary.
Okay,
Okay. I think we are getting a defibrillator out there this year too. We have an extra defibrillator. And then we have we had got all the personal protective equipment out there for them too. They actually had face shields and gowns and everything that we had. And I think it's still going to be the recommendation. That training, a lot of that training will go through Mark Hoddle and MMUA. And then I know Beth was involved in that too, and she's on the ambulance. Is it Beth?
Jen.
Jen Klein.
Yeah.
Right. Jen was involved in that, and I'll invite her to that safety meeting again this year. But Mark will go over that. And like I said, we got all the personal protective equipment for that. Plus, we're going to have a defibrillator out there this year. So they'll probably go through some training on that as well.
And Mary, I'm not sure what it is with the lifeguards, but I know for like the fire department with the whole COVID thing going on, they've just highly recommended, the compressions until they can get there with their bag machines and stuff like that. So you don't have to make that personal contact with the mouth to mouth. So they increase compressions, which is probably what they're going to teach, the lifeguards, minus the fact that if they were underwater to clear that airway. But, I know that's what they were really pushing with us with the fire department was just more of the compressions until the ambulance could get there.
Plus with the add-on of the defibrillator, I think that kind of makes everybody
Yeah.
feel a little more at ease too.
Yep. Thank you.
Good information.
I think regarding the MDH recommendations, so that's all the questions that I have at this time. I'm sure I'll come up with more and we'll talk about them again, I guess.
Wonderful. Well, we've discussed everything on the agenda and furthermore, is there, I just want to extend another welcome to Kayla and Troy. Wonderful to have you here. This time I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.